What's going on, everybody? It is Nine Line Live. On the line today, we have Cheeseburger. What's going on, Cheeseburger?
Hey, what's going on?
All right, so what we're going to talk about today is, before we get all started and kind of chit-chatting about hot rods and stuff, want to tell everybody what this is about. So we're just going to have, hopefully every Wednesday night around 7 o'clock Central Time, hopefully we're going to get on live on Facebook, and we will start chit-chatting about hot rods. So we can range everything. Cheeseburger's kind of a Ford guy. I've always been a Chevy guy. So we have a little bit of a different background, but shoot, man, how long have we known each other now? 20 something years, 24, 25 years?
It's funny you asked that. While I was cooking dinner here about an hour ago, I was thinking, man, how did we meet? And me and you we basically grew up in the same town. Uh, and One day I was driving by your house and you were working on your old Trans Am. I think were you putting long tubes on it?
If the hood was about 9 feet in the air and the back bumper on the ground, we probably were.
Yeah, yeah. So thank God I didn't know him earlier because he would have asked me to probably come over there and help him with the install of the long tube headers on the Trans Am. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever installed long tubes on a Trans Am, but it is not the easiest task. Um, Luckily, his dad actually came over and helped him with that. But long story short, we just kind of ran into each other. I mean, we literally just kind of ran into each other, and we shared a mutual friend. I guess that's technically kind of how we met.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, we
and we kind of just one day we just like I said, I stopped in front of his house and
actually,
we
it was
we
before
kind
that,
of
wasn't it? Because we didn't really know each other then, but we met each other at Prairie Hill
yeah through
through
our
the mutual
mutual
friend
friend.
drag strip.
And then one thing led to another. We realized that we love the same stuff. We go to the same drag strip. So kind of we just kind of started hanging out.
25 years later, here we are.
25 years later, and we've had our ups and downs, but
Two
um,
deployments,
yeah,
all kinds of good stuff. Many hot
yeah.
rods between that day and now. Both of us have had a lot of different things, but
Oh, probably, yeah, a lot.
it's
I
crazy how
mean,
time flies when you really think about
you
it.
know,
And
I mean, we've worked on everything from, you know, carbureted engines to a 2003 Cobra Terminator car.
God, I miss
So,
that
I
car.
mean,
God, I miss that car. Well,
I mean,
first,
we've
and this isn't like
go,
a professional podcast or anything like that. We just want to, we want to shoot the crap with everybody. Hopefully, I have the live chat working today. Last time I tried to do this live chat and live stream thing, I had that screwed up pretty good. So, this is the very first one. Again, we hope to do these every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Central Time. But we want to give a big shout out to our sponsors, Me, Myself, and I. And no, but for real, if you're interested in partnering with the channel, we did have Oxido reach out to us about doing some headlight reviews. If you haven't seen that video, it's up. There's also a link in that description that will give you a 15% discount. Throws a little few pennies towards the channel so we can keep doing some hot rods and expanding our things. So, have you seen that video, Randall?
uh,
I said I wasn't going
which
to say
which
your real name, but whoops.
which one is it?
The LED headlights on the Tahoe.
I have not seen that one. No, I haven't.
Yeah, I put those. So they gave me high beam lights, and they're really, really, really ridiculously bright. But all right, so
How's the, I guess I need to watch the video, but how's the projection? I mean, does it have a good cutoff line? Like
yeah,
it doesn't like blind people as you're.
well, they're I think they're the bright lights, so you do, obviously you need to turn them down. But I did a
Yeah,
before and after video. I drove down below the dam with,
yeah,
and I had Sylvania lights in it before I put those Oxidos in. So I did a comparison of
yeah,
before and after. And man, those LED lights, they just have so much more throw to them. In fact, when I drove down at the very base of the dam, you could see all the way across the bank. The Sylvanias
very,
didn't light up that far.
very nice.
Yeah, very cool. All
And
right.
guys, that's a long way. Seeing
Yeah,
across the bank,
yeah,
that's a pretty good distance.
yeah. I was pretty impressed with it, and it makes me want to put LEDs in everything because they have low beams, blinkers, backups. They have all of it.
Yeah,
So, all right. So the topic I have written out for tonight's discussion, and I want you to tell me the very first thing that comes to mind when I say this. You ready for it?
go for it.
Small block.
A small block is a Chevy 350 made from what 1959 to when did they stop the 350?
Well, the 350 didn't come out till '67 in the Camaro, but
Okay, so small block would encompass 283, 305, 307, 327, 350, 383. That's what I consider a small block.
right. I think if you ask the general population, or if you say, or if you go to car shows or drag strips or anywhere there's hot rodding going on, and you always hear, oh, it's got a small block Chevy in it, and I think 95% of those that hear that just instinctively think 350.
Exactly.
Um, Probably because GM made 3 million of them between 1967 and whatever 90, probably 2000, I think, because they were still putting them in the 3/4 tons.
Yeah. God, I don't know what the cutoff date is on that.
Uh,
Somewhere in the 97 to 2000 range, I think, is when they stopped manufacturing.
yeah, because I think in
Which you,
2000 you
which
could
you,
still get the old body style 3/4 ton with the 350 in it.
yeah.
Um,
Well,
2002,
in
I got it right here on Wikipedia.
2002. Okay.
Yep. So
And then I don't know how long Chevy continued to make the crate engine after that either.
right, yeah, we're talking strictly production years here. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
so do you happen to know? We obviously know that the small block Chevy, the Gen 1 small block Chevy, like we're talking about with the 350 and all the other cubic inches. Do you happen to know what the year, the first year that Chevy released a V8 is?
Oh, I do not.
Yeah, I didn't know this one either. I was doing research for the show earlier. 1917. It was a
Whoa. Whoa.
4.7 liter V8, just like we think of a V8 now, but it made a whopping 36 horsepower.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to read up on that.
yeah,
'Cause that's
it's pretty neat. It came out in the Series D uh, car, and it says
okay.
liquid cooled 288 cubic inch 4.7 liter 90-degree V8. Pretty much what we think of a V8 today. It was released by Chevrolet, but subsequently General Motors, they merged in 1918.
Now, was it a flathead design like the Ford?
It says it's no, it's an overhead valve.
It's an
Uh,
overhead valve.
yeah,
Wow.
it's Chevy's first V8 and one of the very first overhead valve V8 engines
Hmm.
until
All right.
the Gen 1 small block came out in 1955.
Yep.
And that's kind of what the small block we think of would be the Gen 1, right? 1955 with the 283.
Yep.
Um, no, I'm sorry. 265 was first.
260. Yeah. 260. 265.
Yeah, the 265 came out in 1955, a 4.3 liter. Um, Obviously caught traction. It says, with the roundy round guys, they took it and started hot rodding it. Uh, got the nickname the Mighty Mouse, and later people just started calling it the Mouse.
Yep.
Let's see, 57 283 came out, and it was the first engine for Chevy, I guess, that produced 1 horsepower per cubic inch.
Yep. The old mouse motor.
Let's see.
And then of course the big block is the Rat,
Right. Yep.
and then the Hemi was known as
Elephant.
the Elephant.
Yep. So let's see here. Then the 327, 327, 375 horse with
Okay.
those known as the Turbo Fire. Man, why don't we call engines cool stuff like that anymore? The Turbo Fire 327.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Let's see here. I'm kind of scrolling through Wikipedia here. I wrote a bunch of notes down earlier, but I can't read my own writing. Uh, so why do you think that the small block 350? And I'm saying the 350. Obviously, we talked about earlier that they made 3 million of them.
Right.
But why do you think that that's such a common engine for swaps or hot rodding in general?
What for the small block 350?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was I guess it was the aftermarket. The aftermarket, had a huge part in that. Uh, there's a million different speed parts that you can put on the small block 350, and because parts were so readily available for it, it was cheap.
Right.
So cheap horsepower. That's why people flocked to that engine family and basically put it in everything under the sun.
Right. Well, obviously, when it came out in '55, it was a game changer because Ford at that time still was it the 352 maybe or the I don't know. I don't even know if they had a 352 yet. Maybe. You're the Ford guy. I have no idea. But
Oh, the gears are turning in my head, and I
yeah,
can't
I don't
I
know,
can't put
man.
it. Yeah.
But and then the muscle car era comes on, and I didn't know this until I was doing my research earlier. But the small block actually, came out in '55, but the first big block didn't even come out until '58. I
And
thought
what was the first big block?
the 348 turbo thrust.
Okay.
Yeah, 5.7 liter. Um, Made a whopping 250 horsepower.
Oh wow.
I don't know, man. I'm going to go back to my question earlier. Why don't we call engines like turbo thrust and super turbo thrust special
We
super turbo thrust? I mean,
Yeah. Or the one that I always think of is it the Buick Wildcat 310?
yeah, man. They used to have some cool stuff back then. So I guess, like I said, the muscle car era comes around after the '50s. Thank you to Mr. DeLorean for introducing the GTO and spawning the muscle car era. But let's talk about the DZ302, one of the coolest engines Chevrolet ever produced, and it was
The
only available '67 to '69, and that thing was legendary.
legendary. That thing would rev to 8,000 RPMs. God, and I think it was only like the the option. I think it was like a $700 or $800 option to get that engine in a Camaro. I mean, it was cheap to get that engine, but apparently not very many people chose that option because nowadays a Chevy 302 is about as rare as it comes.
Yeah, a real one. Yeah, and numbers matching. Good luck on that. But
Yeah,
yeah, they Chevrolet produced that to specifically compete in the Sports Car Club of America, the Trans Am series for road racing. And
yeah, and I think it was just off the top of my head, I think it was like advertised at 290 horsepower, but pretty much everybody can agree that it made a lot more than that.
yeah, anytime Chevrolet puts primary long tube headers in the trunk as an option to install after you buy it, I mean
Yeah,
that tells you that
yeah,
it's made to go.
yeah.
But yeah, the 302. And then as far as the 350s go, and this is kind of where I want to kind of take this conversation to. Um, in 1970 was the LT-1 350.
Okay.
And that was introduced in the Camaro again. Um, 11 to 1 compression, introduced in 1970 at 370 horsepower. But that's kind of the end of the muscle car area, kind of getting there close where everything starts getting cut out and things are losing power, the fuel crisis and all that jazz,
Yeah,
insurance.
and this three-letter agency known as the EPA,
Yeah, still kicking our
e
ass.
evil organization, came in and basically took all these awesome engines that were making 400 horsepower. Now all of a sudden these engines are making 150. I mean, that right there should tell you how bad, you know, the
Yeah. Well, let's take that
the
LT1.
error. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
So that LT-1, right? And I'm saying it that way for a reason, so that way people don't confuse it with the Generation 2 small block LT1. Um, so the LT-1 in 1970 was rated at 370 horsepower for the Corvette, 360 in the Camaro. 71, they lowered the compression to 9 to 1, and it made 330 horsepower in both cars. And then in 72, it dropped to 255 horsepower.
Wow.
So that just shows you right there that they killed it.
Yeah, yeah. Just a just a kick in the balls.
The muscle car era was
Yeah.
dead until it was revived later on in the 2020s or whenever you want to really call it. But
I would say the muscle, I'm coming from a Ford guy here. The muscle car era finally started coming back around with the introduction of the Fox Body Mustang.
yeah, probably.
And I mean, the Fox Body Mustang actually was introduced in '79,
Right.
but the true, like what we all know is the Fox Body Mustang, '85, '86, '87. That's when we started to finally get some fast cars back.
Yeah, 87, right? They introduced the roller cam and some different changes. Is that also the year that the Mustang switched from speed density to mass airflow?
Uh, Mass airflow was uh, started. Let's see. They started with throttle body injection in like '82 or '83. Then they went over to uh, the uh, the port injection in like '86, and it stayed mass air until '89. And that in '89, I think that's when they went to mass air. So they went from speed density to mass air in '89.
Gotcha.
California cars actually went to mass air in '88, I believe.
Gotcha. Well, the engine that
And
we kind of started this conversation off with was the 350, and I made a lot of emphasis on that 350 and the 70 Camaro that was an LT-1. Um, from 1969 to 86, Chevrolet produced the LS9 350, and it was a truck engine. Now, a lot of people think LS9 now, and they think the Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 4 LS9, but um, GM used a lot of these RPO codes, and that's regular production option for those that don't know. They used a lot of these RPO codes over and over and over again. So, um, when do you think that we started calling these engines by the RPO code as opposed to it's a 350 or it's a whatever?
probably the introduction of the '93 Camaro. Um, I think that's kind of when the designation started. Like, oh man, that's got an LT1 350 in it.
I agree
I
completely.
I think that's probably about whenever that started.
Yeah, because the Gen 2 was, I mean, it was still, for all intents and purposes, the bottom end was essentially the same as a Gen 1 small block, but with the reverse cooling heads and the
The
OptiSpark.
OptiSpark.
I
Yep.
mean, and
They
it
had
was,
to, yeah, they had to come up with something because they couldn't fit a distributor in the '93 body style Camaro. So they had to they had to hang the distributor off the front with the so-called OptiSpark.
yeah, I
That
think
was
I mean,
actually,
I was as guilty as anybody when I had that 95 Trans Am. I mean, I didn't call it a 350. I said it's got an LT1.
yep.
I mean, I referred to it by the RPO code. And,
Uh-huh.
and there was an LT4 back then as well in the
The
90s.
LT the LT4 was that came in the the Corvette.
the Grand Sport, and then
Yeah,
later as an SLP option for the
yeah,
Firehawk and the SS in
yeah.
'97. Uh,
Man, I remember looking through the Summit catalog and seeing the LT4 package. You could buy
yep.
the LT4 package with the heads, cam, intake, and you could put it on just a regular LT1. And I think they advertised it at 425 horsepower for that kit.
Yeah, and that was something back then. I mean,
That
now
was a
we
lot. That was a
425
lot of
horsepower.
power.
Now you're like, oh, whatever. But back then, man, that was a lot of power.
Yeah,
Especially
yeah,
when they came. If you take a standard, let's say, I think my '95 made 275 horsepower. At least that's what they rated them at. So you're talking about putting a hot cam kit's what they called it, right? The hot cam, the
yeah.
LT4 heads, and the LT4 intake, and bumping it up to 425. That was really doing something.
That was doing a lot because the Dodge Viper at the time, I think that V10 was only advertised at 400.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So,
I mean, it had probably
so
like 600 pound-feet of torque, but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, I think they were 400 horse if I
yeah,
remember
uh-huh,
correctly.
yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, so the RPO code thing is one of the things I kind of wanted to touch on too, and then you know, there's the Vortec, right? Everybody's like, oh, let's kind of go backwards here in our progression, but oh, it had in the 96 in the trucks, right? It's got a Vortec 350 in it.
yeah. The Vortec heads they were pretty dang good.
Right. Yeah, the raised port design. I mean, it was the best flowing cast iron head, even better than the famed double hump heads. Uh,
Yep.
they really flowed a lot, but
Well, and the Vortec heads actually come really close to some aluminum aftermarket heads.
yes, yep, yeah. I was just watching a show. I think it was on Engine Masters yesterday, and they were
Yeah,
testing a set of Vortec. The only thing they said that really you have to do is modify the studs. They're not really made for lift, and if you do anything like over 480
the
lift, the
the
coils bite.
studs, yeah, and yeah, the lifter studs will actually pull out of the head, so
Right,
you have to take those out and do screw in studs.
right, exactly. So with those Vortex, did you actually know? And this is I didn't know this again until I was doing my research earlier. Um, that the first time that the term Vortec was actually used was on the 1985 4.3 liter V6.
Really?
Yeah, so they
What?
had a
Okay,
they used Vortex technology in the cylinder head in the combustion chamber, and that's where the term Vortec came from, was the Vortex technology.
interesting.
Yeah, I had no idea. I've always wondered where the term Vortec came from. I thought it was just a marketing deal, and I
Yeah,
guess it was, but um, the
but it
the
was actually based on something.
yeah, well, I mean, if you think about the quench, the swirl, and everything that the cast iron Vortec small block heads have, I mean, think about how many times that's been copied in the aftermarket in aluminum cylinder heads.
Yeah,
The heart shape, I mean, the swirl, that was a Vortec thing, man, from the factory.
right.
Pretty cool stuff when you think about it.
Yeah, and I think if I'm not mistaken, the early Vortec heads actually had like a little dam inside the combustion chamber that was used to basically make the airflow swirl. The only problem with that is it killed CFM.
Mm,
It just killed the actual airflow. So I think it went back to the drawing board, and they were able to figure out how to make the air swirl and get rid of the dam, so to speak,
gotcha.
that they used. So
Well, I think, they learned a lot from that. If you look at the later Gen 3 stuff when they went to the uh, what everybody calls an LS, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but when they went to the Gen 3 stuff, they took a lot of lessons learned from those cast iron Vortec cylinder heads.
yes, they did.
So one of the other questions I have for you, let's see. So we kind of talked about when we started talking about referring to engines by their RPO codes. When do you think we started referring to engines by their cubic centimeters and not cubic inches, or by their liters?
Uh, I don't know as if we've ever. Do you think we've done that with American engines?
Yeah, man, my truck's got a six
I
liter in it.
well, like yeah, like a 6.0, 5.0. Okay, so I get what you're saying now. Um, I would say that Fox Body Mustang started that, the 5.0.
Yep, I
And
think so
everybody's
too.
like, well, and everybody's like, well, what does 5.0 stand for? And you'd have to sit there and explain it to them. Well, it's a 302. It has 5,000 cubic centimeters.
Yeah, I remember my dad used to get so mad at me, man. We lived up there in Fort Worth, and there was a guy across the street. He had a Fox body in it, 5.0 on the side, and I used to always call it a 5.0. I didn't call it a Mustang, and my dad got so angry at me, man. He was like, "It's a Mustang. It's not a
It's a
5.0."
must.
I mean, even Vanilla Ice wrote a song, man, "Rolling in my 5.0." So,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I do believe I was when I thought about these questions earlier. That's exactly what I thought was when
yeah,
the
because now that I think about it, that is the first car that I can think about, or that I can think of that actually had the like the the 5.0 or the badge on the side of it like that. I mean,
yeah.
it was like in your face, big blocky 5.0 letters on the side to tell you what was in it.
It seems
And
like I
that's
remember Freiberger saying something on one of his shows. It was either on Roadkill or maybe it was on Junkyard Gold or something like that. But I think a Pontiac in the '70s actually put something as far as the leaders on the fender, and I'm sorry, I don't remember which one it is. But for me, in my recollection, in my time, it's the Fox body.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
because I can think of old cars that, like old Dodges that had 440 on the side or, you know, 383, stuff like that. But now that I think about it, the Fox body was the first car that I can think of that had the 5.0.
I just thought about something.
Uh,
Didn't the '77 Trans Am on the hood scoop say 6.6?
it did. It did.
Yeah, but I
6.6. Yep. TA.
Yeah, I just thought about that, but I seems like it was a on that show with Freiberger, and man, I'm wanting to say that it was a Tempest or something. That it was like a 6.7. It was a very odd leader, and I don't know, but yeah, that just popped into my head that the Trans Am actually said 6.6 on the shaker on that scoop or
Yep.
whatever it was. Um, but
Yeah,
again,
it
for
was on
me,
it was on the shaker scoop. But
yeah,
of course, yeah, I guess now that I think about it, that the 6.6 designation, yeah,
yeah, but like I said, for guys our age, I think the Mustang, the Fox body, is probably what we all just think of. Uh,
right, exactly.
Now, the Vortec 350, they kind of advertised it as 5700, but everybody still kind of just referred to it as the 350. I don't know.
The
Nobody
thr
even referred to it as a 5.7.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And now I guess with these new Gen 3, Gen 4, Gen 5 GM small blocks, everybody refers to them as in their leader form. I guess Mustangs too, 5.0s and
yeah,
everything's in liters now. We don't talk about
yeah.
anything in cubic inches. I guess because if I said my truck has a 364 cubic inch motor in or engine in it, people,
They're gonna look at you like, what?
yeah, exactly. You don't
I
see
mean,
on the
now,
back rear quarter panel like 454 SS. You're not going to put 364 SS back there.
no,
That would
no,
be
no.
stupid.
Everybody refers to it as that's the 4.8 or that's the 5.3 or that's the 6.0. And that one's got the 6.2 in it.
Yep. So kind of getting towards the end of this, I want to try to keep these shows at about 30, 45 minutes because I know once people start listening and stuff, an hour is a long time to sit and listen to stuff, but especially with this
Right.
kind of being the first time that we're
Yeah.
doing this. But the whole concept of talking about a small block is one of my most biggest pet peeves in the hot rod industry right now. And we will do a second show about this, and this is just the lead up to it. But why do you think that every Gen 3 small block Chevy is referred to as an LS? And Gen 4 for that
Well,
matter.
yeah. Well, something happened. Something happened in what is it? When did the LS come out? 97?
97, yeah.
The 97 Corvette. That was the was that C5 Corvette. And it was the C5 Corvette was so much different than any other Corvette before its time. And it had this badass engine in it called the LS1. And it just kind of took off from there. And I think everybody just, oh, it's got an LS, it's got an LS, And I think that moniker, that LS, it just kind of stuck. And for what, I don't know why it stuck so bad or so good, whatever you want to call it, but it just kind of stuck in people's brains to the point where they refer to all of the engines as, oh, it's an LS. It's, cathedral port heads, LS. Man, they're awesome. They're badass.
I don't know. And like I said, the next show we're gonna talk about this in depth, because just go ahead and start priming your thoughts for that. But next Wednesday, I want to talk about this because I think there's a lot of misconception, and one of the reasons I really wanted to talk about RPO codes and all that in this show is to kind of lay the groundwork for next week, because an LS1 is an RPO code, and there's no
Yes.
if, ands, or buts about it. It's an RPO code.
Yeah.
And
And
so
what you're getting at is the LS is technically a small block Chevy.
absolutely, it is not an LS. It is a small block Chevy. It is a Gen 3 or a Gen 4 small block Chevy. And now with the new reintroduction of the new RPO codes again, the LT series are Gen 5 small blocks. They are still 90-degree, water cooled, overhead valve V8s. That's a small block Chevy. 4.4-inch bore spacing. They are a small block Chevy from 1955 all the way through 2024. The block, as far as bore spacing, has not changed. It is still a small block Chevy.
Yep. So everybody that's listening, if you can't get where we're going with this,
Yeah,
we're trying
exactly.
we're just trying to figure out why there's two different, you know, some people call it a small block, some people call it an LS.
Yeah, so be sure to tune in next week. This is going to be a interesting topic, sure to piss the entire internet off, because I'm going to wrap this up by saying, Cheeseburger, I appreciate you coming in here, and I look forward to doing this, man. We've been going 34 minutes, and this has been a blast. I enjoy talking hot rods bench racing, and I look forward to doing
Yep.
it again.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
I want to wrap this up by saying, it's not a freaking LS. We will see you next week.
See you guys.